Hey guys, welcome to week 20 of Two and Out, the CFL preview show found only here on WagerTalk TV. The CFL season is quickly coming to a close, playoffs right around the corner, but still a couple weeks left, still a lot of bettable games. And here to discuss them with me, our insider who's celebrating his birthday today. So please, whatever you do, drop a comment in our comment section on this video and wish Rob a happy birthday. I'm not sure if it's his 40th or what it is, but happy birthday, Rob, and thanks for being part of the show each and every week. We really appreciate it. Of course, our CFL expert, Andrew McInnis. And Andrew, let's bring you in. Uh, how's your week going, Andrew?
Carmen's going pretty good. Look, we're happy to have puck time back, but of course, CFL still in full swing. And, I've been saying for the past few weeks that some of these games are a little bit meaningless. Well, I think really these games are now kind of coming down to it. Some games, teams are playing for pride to close out their year. They aren't in the playoff spot. They're just out. Certain teams want to move into the playoffs on a really positive note. And some teams are still figuring out positions. But I'm sure as Rob and I will talk about, there's still some bettable sides to look at for this weekend. And really just figure out which teams are motivated coming into this weekend is the biggest thing. But Carm, congratulations to you. You're off a big 5% hockey winner. I'm hoping to do the exact same thing in the NFL and CFL this weekend.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. It was a good NHL night, and we'll discuss it on Puck Time later today. But we have some bettable CFL games, and let's bring in Rob, the birthday boy. Rob, once again, happy birthday to you, my friend. And what better way to kick it off than talking about one of the teams that your family owned, the BC Lions, Calgary at BC, 8.5. What can we expect? Does Calgary have anything left in the tank after last week's game?
Well, thanks, Carmine. It's already week 20. I can't believe it. There's only one more regular season week left in the CFL, and I'm hammering the over on that 40 you mentioned about my age. I'm going to take that to the bank.
The play of the day, eh, Rob?
That's the play. That's my lock, if there's such a thing as a lock anymore. Anyway, we got Calgary at BC. Vernon Adams, he suffered a little injury last week, but I understand he's taking full reps at practice. He's 100% ready to go, and they will be playing their starters. If you look at the schedule for BC, this is their last week. The Eastern teams, there's 3 Eastern teams with byes this week. There's 3 Western teams with byes next week. So going into the playoffs, and BC still has an outside shot at winning the West, believe it or not. They don't want to rest anybody. They want to go in on a winning note because they're going to have 2 weeks off. They're going to have the last bye week, plus they're going to have to wait and host a playoff game, whether it's the Western final or semifinal or whatever. I mean, they're going to have some time off. So I think you're going to see a big effort from BC this week. Dane Evans may get some reps late in the game. You're going to need, you want to have 2 quarterbacks ready for a playoff run. So that's important too, to get him in. And that's, I mean, he's a great quarterback as well. There's no letdown spot there or anything. But you're going to see BC. Let's look at their last 5 games. They put up 33 against Hamilton, 26 in a loss to Winnipeg, 33 Saskatchewan, 37 Edmonton, Ottawa, 41. They're averaging 34 points in their last 5 games, and I don't think anything is going to change here. I see them over 30. The question is, can Calgary keep up? Calgary has lost 3 out of 4. They beat Saskatchewan, but everybody in the league has beat Saskatchewan in the last 6 weeks. They lost to Hamilton, Montreal, and Edmonton. These are not what I would consider formidable foes. Calgary is not exactly flying in the playoffs, now facing a BC. And the thing about the BC game is it's before the Winnipeg game. So it's not like they're going to be set in the standings going into that game. They're still going to play it. I think the spread last time I saw was 8.5. I think the over-under is 49.5. BC is going to get their 30 plus, and as a matter of can Calgary keep up the whole game, or will they just fold at the end? I'm leaning BC to cover these points, and I'm going to look at the over as well. But I can't see Calgary just keeping up. And Jake Mayer, you're not going to win a Grey Cup, in my opinion, with Jake Mayer at quarterback. So advantage BC, I think, in this one, and they still have motivation, and they are the better football team.
Andrew, I want you to chime in here because, like, even one of the things that Rob said was, the fact that you want to have like two quarterbacks ready should you need them in a playoff game, and we saw that with the Argos last season in the Grey Cup, but we also saw it last week with the Argo game against Ottawa. And I'm watching the game. I'm like, when are they going to take out Chad Kelly? And he I guess he talked his way back into the offense in the third quarter, but. You got to give reps to both QBs. I think once you're locked in to a playoff spot. Give me your thoughts on this BC game as well.
Well, I think, Carm, when a season comes to an end, people look to bet on underdogs. They look to bet on teams that are just getting way too many points. But this is not one of those scenarios, I believe, that would be profitable doing that. I think you want to look at the more focused team, the motivated team, and you want to look at the team that's in a better situation. And I think that it's the BC Lions, as Rob discussed there, with the bye week and with their position coming up in the playoffs. We see it across all sports. Actually, people are complaining about it right now about the MLB playoffs, that some reason these players didn't know how to swing a bat anymore because they had a week off. You know what I mean? Now in the CFL, these guys want to stay sharp. They want to stay, dialed in. And this is a Calgary team that I simply do not believe will be able to trade points with the BC Lions. As Rob mentioned, BC is going to put up their points. It's just a matter of, with this 8.5 points, if we think that Calgary can trade points enough to hang around within that territory. And if you look at last week's game that Calgary played, they came out victorious against Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan had Dulagala throw an interception. I believe they had one or two fumbles. I mean, to me, that was just as much of a bad Saskatchewan game as it was a good Calgary game. That was one of the ugliest games I've watched this season. So I don't really give credit too much to Calgary in that one. I think that when you're going towards the end of the season, you don't necessarily want to just be on these big dogs. You want to be on the teams that are still in it and the teams that still care. So I just really don't see Calgary being a team that can play spoiler, not just straight up, but against the spread. If I'm playing here, I'm laying it with BC. And because of that big number, though, I would potentially look at that first half because, as we know, BC is a great first half team.
All right. Andrew McInnis of WagerTalk.com. You can follow him on the X at McInnis Picks. And of course, Rob Braley, give him a shout out. Wish him a happy birthday at Rob_Braley. Rob, I want to get into this second game, the Edmonton Winnipeg game. You would think it's obviously a nothing game for Edmonton, and we'll find out from you whether they've packed their bags or if they have one last fight in them. I like the fact that Winnipeg is still battling with BC for top spot there, because I have a future on Winnipeg to win over 12 and a half games. They're sitting at 12 right now. So this one gets me to the finish line, or does it? Give me your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, Carm, this should definitely get you to the finish line, I would think. I mean Winnipeg, depending on what happens in the BC game, are still fighting for first place. Edmonton are basically playing for jobs. I think most of the guys are going to have their bags packed and ready to go home. Trey Ford has done a fantastic job. Like, he's really picked up Edmonton's slack for the first half of the season. And if you look at the power rankings now on Third Down Nation or whatever it's called, they're number 6 now, I think, or 7. I mean, they moved up from 9 to 8 to 7 to 6. So they're getting a lot more respect from people around the league. Now, if you want to look at Trey Ford's last 6 games, his last 3 games haven't been great. They're only averaging 20.6 points per game in the last 3, and the 3 before that, they averaged over 30. So there has been a bit of a regression there with the Trey Ford, the offense from Edmonton and Trey Ford. But Winnipeg's been solid down the stretch as well. They've rested some players here and there, but they've kept winning. And Edmonton's heading in the wrong direction. Winnipeg, coming off a bye, has been absolutely awesome. I think the last 2 games off a bye, they put up 47 against Montreal and 50 against BC. And over the last 4, they've put up a 51, a 31, a 50, and 47, averaging 41. I know that the lines bounced from 11.5 to 12. I think it's back to 11.5 now. But if this game means what I think it's going to mean to Winnipeg, I can see them covering this as well. And Edmonton just saying, "Hey, we're out of here. We had a bad season, and let's regroup for next year." So, I mean, the last time they played, I think it was 38-29. Edmonton was in better form, and the games meant a lot more, I think, back then. So, I know it's a lot of points, but I think Winnipeg will dominate this football game.
Rob, you mentioned, so I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned, talking about like CFL power rankings. Let's have an open discussion on that. You're looking at the teams that are going to make the playoffs, and are there any long shots that have any value?
Well, let's take out the first 2. Toronto, Winnipeg are truly the favorites. I think Toronto. Last time I looked, Toronto was plus 110, Winnipeg plus 190. After that, BC in the West, I think, was plus 450, and then we go to the East. Montreal plus 1500, Hamilton plus 2200, and Saskatchewan, believe it or not, plus 5000. Do I think there's going to be a Toronto-Winnipeg repeat of the Grey Cup? It's possible, but I'm going to bet against it. And I can see Winnipeg getting beaten, and I can also see Hamilton giving Toronto a heck of a football game. I know they've lost 4 in a row, but Hamilton is definitely getting better. And at plus 2200 and BC at plus 450, maybe put some pizza money on either one of those 2. And if one of them makes it, then you can hedge that bet.
Andrew, you know me. I'm always up for the pizza bet ones. Any additional pizza this Italian can get. I'm going to name if I get a puppy, I'm going to name it Carbs, because carbs is what I'm full of. Andrew, any value in those lines that Rob mentioned to you before we get on to the next question?
I think I've been talking about BC all season long. You look at Toronto, as Rob stated, they're plus 110. I just, I was lucky enough to be able to go to the Hamilton game. Rob hooked me up with some tickets when they were in the Grey Cup a couple years ago, and it's back there again this year. And the thing is, the weather's not great, and it's really windy there. The colder it gets, and the stadium is kind of an interesting spot of the city. You want to bet on teams with great ground games. And that's what Toronto has. And that's the reason why they're big favorites. But here's the deal. The last 2 times the Argos won the Grey Cup were when they were pretty big underdogs, weren't they? I mean, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago. And then last year they were certainly dogs. I can't help myself but take a 14-1 shot on Montreal. I really can't, because if they get by Toronto, then all of a sudden you're sticking with a 14-1 ticket in the Grey Cup. I think that they're a good team. I think they're going to be in the Grey Cup final, even though they always struggle against Hamilton. Be in the Eastern final. I think they can beat Hamilton, and all of a sudden, if you're going into that game, the East final with Toronto versus Montreal, you have a 14-1 ticket to win the Grey Cup. If Montreal pulls off the upset, you're going into the Grey Cup with a 14-1 ticket. I mean, to me, that's the only one I'd be worth taking. Other than that, I think you should just be betting and rolling over your money. I mean, plus 110, you've missed the boat on the Argos at this point. But I think if there's one thing that you should put in, I think it's almost an investment at this point, is just put in a calculated wager on Montreal, and you can find yourself a way to hedge it out. Rob, what do you think about that? I know Toronto's been so stacked, but at 14-1, the CFL, anything can happen. I feel like it's worth a little bit of a sprinkle.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Montreal's is going to get a home game before they would travel to Toronto, which is an advantage over Hamilton. And like you said, if it's 14 or 15-1, I think there is value there. Like you said, we've already missed the boat on Toronto, and I think we've already missed the boat on Winnipeg. So I agree with you. I think Montreal could handle business against Hamilton, and then with a one-game final, anything can happen, anything can go. And I believe Montreal really does have a balanced attack as well. So I don't think weather's going to be a factor for them. As long as Stanback's healthy and, Fajardo's got a good receiving core, I think anything can happen in that game. So, I mean, I would lean Toronto depending on what the spread is, but I think that's a good buy at 15-1.
All right, those are some very good thoughts on the power rankings and some possible long shots. Hopefully, the Argos make it so then this way I can hit up Rob for some tickets. And if by chance the Calgary Stampeders somehow find their way to Hamilton for the Grey Cup, then maybe we'll invite Natasha Stanikowski to the game, former TSN, now with the Calgary Stampeders. I know she'd like to come and visit, and we can show her around. She's been here; she knows it. Fantastic media personality. But speaking of the Argonauts, Rob, Argos a -9 and 9.5 against Saskatchewan. Roughriders on a 6-game slide and now facing Chad Kelly and that Argos vaunted offense that I've talked about all season long. Does the slide continue?
I knew we'd have to talk about this one, Carm, for some reason. You couldn't just let the Argos go to waste here. All right. So Toronto is a 9.5 point road favorite. The over-under, I believe, is around 50. Saskatchewan has lost 6 in a row, just like they did last year. And I think Saskatchewan has a bye next week. So this is Saskatchewan's last chance. They have to win. Are they capable? Let's break down Saskatchewan's defense here for a minute. Their last 6 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they gave up 26 to Calgary, 38 to BC, 33, 36 to Ottawa, 36 to Edmonton, and 51 to Winnipeg. Their defense is giving up over 30 points a game. And to me, they're facing probably the best offense in the CFL. And Toronto is going to come in and they're going to start everybody from what I'm understanding. I believe the running back, Ouellette, is back this week. Toronto offense, the last 6 games, is averaging 31 points a game. And their defense is only giving up 19. So Toronto's defense has actually come a long way since the beginning of the season. They gave up 27 to Ottawa, but 12 to the Elks, 14 to Hamilton, 20 to Montreal, 10 to Montreal, and Winnipeg beat them a couple weeks ago with 31. So that was in Winnipeg, and their defense is certainly better than Saskatchewan's. Laying 9.5 on the road. Ooh, that's a big number. I can't see Saskatchewan winning this football game. They're spinning. They're on a downslide. They're about to crash into somebody's house or something. I'm not sure where they're going to crash, but I would lean Toronto. I'm going to wait to see who's playing before I place a bet on Toronto. So for some reason, I like all three favorites this week. I just don't see Saskatchewan being able to compete in this football game.
Rob, do you think the Argos have a couple games left? They have this one here. Everything's locked up for them. You want to sort of protect the players, and I get it. Chad Kelly is a competitor. He wants to be in there. They've got this game, and then they play
Ottawa.
I think it's the Red Blacks on the final weekend of the season. The final weekend of the season. Where do you rest Chad Kelly? Do you rest him the week before, or would you think they rest him this game? They play him against the Red Blacks because they've got the bye week, which is a great time to obviously rest them. So start him against in week 21, rest them the following week, and then get him ready for the Eastern final.
That's a bit of like a coach's mindset. I know some coaches, they want to play right to the end. I know Michael Shea, he loves to win his last game. He doesn't like to take games off. They can rest Kelly next week against Ottawa. Will they rest him? I guarantee you this offense plays the first half against Ottawa, all the starters in, because then they got a bye week. So I don't think this is a week off. I think they might rest one or two guys that need it, that are nicked up. But I think Toronto wants to keep plowing away and keep winning football games. They're on a high roll right now. Their offense is performing. Why would you want to upset the apple cart there and take a week off? And then all of a sudden you had a bad performance, and like, now what do? We got to put them, all the starters, back in again. So I'm looking for Toronto to come in here and just dominate this football game and not let not let up just yet. I can see them maybe playing half a game next week, but that's how I see it.
All right, that's Rob Braley, our CFL insider, and celebrating his birthday today. So again, happy birthday, Rob. Guys, drop a comment at the bottom of this video. Let us know who your best bet is, whether you agree or disagree with us. Of course, hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of these actionable info shows across the WagerTalk TV platform. Andrew, let's get to inside the numbers and an extra point winner from you. We'll have a look at the odds. Anything that grabbed you, and as far as the extra point, let's get a winner here.
Yeah, we looked at things pretty much so far, only a handful of games, but we talked about it. 8.5-point favorites there for BC at home against Calgary of Saskatchewan, plus 9.5 home underdogs. And the last game of the week, as we talked about, Winnipeg, certainly big favorites there, minus 11 at home against the Edmonton Elks. The biggest one for me that I expect that might see some movement, I think, was BC. I think we will see some love towards BC come in. Personally, I just think these two teams are on different levels. They're on different pages, and as much as Calgary, sure, they won last week, but I don't think they're nearly as good as this BC team, and this is still a BC team that I believe will be focused. So I can't see any money coming in on Calgary. And as Rob and I talked about this show, just because it's late in the season, there's definitely no reason to stay away from some of these favorites. So I think if you want to get on that favorite, you might have to bet it as fast as you can. Make sure you get that 8.5 versus a 9.5 if that number gets up any higher. Also, I'd be wondering what the total there in that Winnipeg and Edmonton game. I think that one could get a little bit higher. So if you like that over, bet that one now. But as far as my extra point, the best bet for the show this week, I'm going to go with the under in the Toronto Argonauts and Saskatchewan Roughriders game. And this might throw some people off here because the Argos, well, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league. They are the highest scoring team. And you've got a Saskatchewan team that went over in 5 straight games. But when I look at their passing game, what I saw from them last week is that they're really trying to utilize their run game as much as they possibly can. That is something that didn't work for them for many weeks, and that's what they're going to try and go out swinging doing, is running the ball into the ground. They didn't really go deep very much, and all the quotes, they want to simplify their offense, hold on to the ball, and just try and pick up some first downs. And as far as this Toronto team is concerned, we talk about them maybe getting off to a good first half and then resting players. Well, Carm, their running game is so strong, both first string, second string, third string, that they're going to just run the ball into the ground in that second half and not run the score up, I believe. And if that's the case, the clock will keep ticking and we can get under this big number of 50.5. So if this was week 10, week 7, week 12, maybe I'd be looking at the over in this game. But with the season winding down, I like the under 50.5 here, Saskatchewan and Toronto.
There you have it. Andrew McInnis with a free play winner, the extra point. We're going to get that extra point, Andrew. I feel it. Guys, thank you for tuning in once again. We have one show left next week, week 21. I'm sure we're going to be able to find a couple of winners on that card for you. So for myself, Andrew McInnis, and our insider, Rob Braley, thanks for tuning in, and best of luck with your wagers this weekend.